Hey, good morning. Hope everybody's doing well. So, I want to talk about a couple of things this morning, and we're going to be talking about a lot of birthdays that are coming up, major birthdays, major milestones for our country in our armed forces. So, the Army, the Navy, and the Marine Corps all will turn 250 years old pretty much within the next year leading up to our 250th birthday as a nation. The Army actually already had its birthday. The Army was established on June 14th, 1775. But coming up within the next couple of months, you're going to have the Navy's birthday, which is October 13th, 1775, and the Marine Corps, which was November 10th, 1775. So we're going to talk a little bit about the armed forces and our nation and going into our 250th birthday as a nation, which will, of course, be July 4th next year. And then I want to talk about something else that happened yesterday, something regarding a tradition within the United States Navy. But first off, I just want to briefly discuss the birth of our nation, but from a military perspective, because when you look back at what happened 250 years ago, where we were and who we had to fight against to earn our independence, uh, pretty much the most powerful military in the world, pound for pound, the British Navy and the British Army. Okay, so when you look at history and pretty much the last 6,000 years of documented world history, right? There's really only three major pound for pound superpowers: land, sea, and air. And what I call a superpower is a military power that is two things: incredibly powerful in every dimension and stays powerful for a long time. That's just what I would think of. And I think of three. I think of essentially the Roman Empire. There's so many that you can talk about around the world. I mean, historians, military historians would debate and talk about these things, but again, my criteria was longevity and effectiveness. And I think of the Roman Empire, right? Not just their longevity, they were around for so long, but their innovation, what they created on top of their warfighting exploits and their conquests, but their engineering prowess, the fact that they built roads. They didn't just fight, but they built. They had like the initial Army Corps of Engineers, the Roman military, right? So, and of course, we all know how they dominated pretty much throughout the world, along with their navy as well. We don't talk a lot about their navy, but they had vessels which they utilized in some of their amphibious campaigns in other places. So let's talk. So definitely the Roman Empire. Um, I'm going to skip number two. I'm going to go number three. Us, the United States of America. We are a superpower. We've been a superpower for a very long time, specifically after World War II. You can say it goes back to the start of the 20th century, but definitely after World War II, fighting that war and winning that war really has taken us to a place where we are today, where despite many things, ups and downs, as a military, we still are the world's premier superpower, right? In the middle, I want to talk about these guys, and I'm going to talk about the British Army and Navy, which was very extremely dominant in the 1700s and the 1800s, first half of the 1800s. That's who we had to fight against to win our independence. You can make a case for the Spanish Navy being very dominant for many years, the Spanish Empire for many years, but the Spanish Navy was more of a navigational, explorational kind of Navy, right? Great sailors, great navigators. But when I talk about the military, I think about war fighting, not just war fighting, the ability to dominate an opponent through warfare, and the British Navy had that in spades. They had they had a typical gun-toting, war-fighting navy, men of war, battleships, fighting, that kind of thing. And of course, their army was just phenomenal. So that's who we had to fight against in order to win our independence. The reason that the United States defeated the reason that these 13 colonies full of militias and ragtag guys and hunters and farmers, the reason that we 13 colonies of the United States of America in 1775, from 1775 to 1782, the reason that we won our independence against the most powerful military of that time was because we had fathers and sons that knew how to use and shoot guns. That's it. Of course, we implemented guerrilla warfare. We had a guy named George Washington who was kind of good at what he did, right? He was a phenomenal leader who inspired and galvanized an entire nation at every level. So that helps through the power of leadership. But we had guys that knew how to use guns. And we eventually decided not to go toe to toe in a typical formation, war fighting mentality like the British, British regulars, formation style. We said we just can't do that. Eventually, we had to implement guerrilla warfare. So that's ultimately what allowed us to win, along with special forces campaigns, the crossing the Delaware River, attacking, things like that at unconventional times. We pretty much kind of invented unconventional warfare, and that's how we won our independence. Now, I say all that because that's very important. Our Army, our Navy, our Marine Corps, all born at that time, at a very important time. Following year, Thomas Jefferson writes the Declaration of Independence in 1776. Then there's no turning back. It's out there. And then we continue fighting until we finally earned our independence from the UK, from Great Britain, and we became the United States of America. So it's exciting. I love history. And then going into these next few months, I know talking to veterans from different branches of services, I know that their birthdays, along with the celebrations that encompass some of the birthdays, are just really special times. But that's what's going to be coming up. And it's a special time in our year because, again, we are approaching our 250th birthday as a nation. So there's going to be a lot of festivities. And it's just exciting. I definitely, for me, and I know for a lot of people as well, a lot of patriots and patriots. I know we're going to really be enjoying the next year. I want to talk about something else, too. Within the United States Navy, there is a process that is currently happening. And this is more on transitioning more on a personal side of things. Within the United States Navy, there is the rank of Chief Petty Officer, which is a senior enlisted rank. When one reaches a pay grade of E7, essentially in the Navy, one becomes a Chief Petty Officer. And within the Navy, within the United States Navy, it's a big deal becoming a chief. Now, I'm just going to say this, I'm just going to speak with my heart here. I'm a big student, and I got a lot to learn. I'm a lifelong learner and student of military culture and history. And when you look at the armed forces within the United States of America, every branch, every service cultures, along with service cultures of other nations around the world, other militaries, especially militaries I admired a lot, there is no community and senior enlisted group like the United States Navy Chief Petty Officer in terms of versatility, in terms of having to perform above the printed assignment, at a level above your printed assignment, the degree of responsibility and the way that the Navy chief gets stretched. A lot of it has to do with just the nature of the Navy, the United States Navy, because the United States Navy, unlike the Army and the Marine Corps, the Navy is a very worldwide cosmopolitan force. We serve in so many different dimensions. Every branch of the military is good at what they do. The Army is great at engineering, at their culture, at history, at traditions. The Army has a phenomenal history. The United States Army, they're the oldest, and they have had great leaders that have become presidents, great figures, George Washington, John Pershing, Dwight D. Eisenhower, you name it. The Army is great. The Marine Corps, well, Marines are Marines, Tufelhunden. They're the best at what they do, which is fight. The Air Force is great. It has great at cybersecurity, at technology. They're smart. I call the Air Force the smart guys. They got the great bases. They got a high degree of appropriation. They got a great personnel culture in terms of how they take care of the people. The Air Force is really good at what they do as well. Every service culture has every branch of the military has its features, its highlights, its characteristics, the things that they take seriously and that they're really good at. And the United States Navy has its features as well. But the rank of the Chief Petty Officer in the Navy is a rank that one assumes and takes on a huge degree and level of responsibility. Right now, when one is selected, and I'm going to basically say what I'm allowed to say because there's a lot that people already know. The public and those who know the Navy know about the rank of a chief, specifically the preparation to become a chief, the preparation that one goes through until they are finally pinned with the anchor of the Chief Petty Officer, which happens in mid-September. And I'm going to talk about what's on the internet, what people kind of already know around the Navy, what's out there for public disclosure is that, simply put, every year, when a sailor is selected to the rank of chief, they notify that they're selected. A board selects them. They're notified that they've been selected. And between the time that they've been notified that they were selected, they go through a process, a training process until they're finally pinned. They're given their chief anchors. Process itself is a little different than what anybody else has to go through before they reach a certain rank. And 10 years ago, when I was selected as a chief in 2015 in Rhodes, Spain, I went through that process for a few weeks until I finally was given my anchors and promoted as a chief. And it was, to this day, it was a process that didn't just prepare me to become a chief and to wear the anchors and to lead sailors and to serve the United States Navy, but it really helped me to prepare for many parts of life that I still tap into to this day. And it was almost this like a spiritual, mystical process of what you go through spiritually, physically, emotionally. And it was something that was it is very special. And I say all that too because it is just a very special community, and the purpose of it, what I can say right now, the purpose of it is to do two things: is to effectively serve the mission of the United States Navy in terms of national security, to create the best senior enlisted leaders in order that we can do our job, perform our mission of the United States Navy, and secondly, to help take care of sailors and their families so sailors can go out there and do their job. So that's what we do. That is the purpose of it. But I wanted to share that with you, and I'm going to also post the Navy Chiefs Creed, because there's a creed that we live by, and that we live by, and so yeah, I just wanted to share that with you. It's an exciting time, and I just want to say regarding the United States Army, I want to kind of show this right here. Back in 2021, it's a flag. When I was serving at Fort Sam Houston teaching the Navy, a preventive medicine class that consisted of soldiers, sailors, service members from around the world, and other people, and a group of soldiers. I was going through kind of fixing my garage up because we just moved here, and I found this flag that was given to me. It's an Army flag, along with the names. I want to take good care of it, but it's a flag with the names of all the soldiers and sailors in that class that I taught. And I think it's really, really cool. You know, two things that a lot of us want is respect and gratitude. Not so much recognition, but gratitude expressions. When somebody tells you thank you, it just means a lot. It's nice. We don't always expect it, right? But when somebody tells you thank you for what you do, it's a very special feeling. And it was nice that they thought of doing this for me. They didn't need to do this. I was just doing my job, and I loved teaching sailors. I loved teaching service members, and it was just my job. But I, I guess they really liked the conversations that we had, and they gave that to me. Um, so good stuff. All right. I hope you guys have a great week. Love you guys. God bless. Deuce.